The people who know me pretty closely know that I have somewhat of an obsession with lost media. I pretty much check the lost media wiki pretty often just to see if anything's been found, something of interest, and I stumbled upon something pretty interesting, which is a pilot that was deemed lost media for a spin-off about Gibby from iCarly. And what happened is they actually found the pilot, and of course my curiosity and my love for, you know, the 2000s and 2010s of television, I had to watch it, and I did, and I mostly did so nobody else would have to, because the Gibby spin-off pilot was pretty, I'm gonna be honest, it was pretty bad. I don't really recommend watching it, but for those who do want to watch it, I'll put it in the description. Let me give you guys somewhat of a summary of what Gibby's about. So it pretty much starts with a bizarre scene already, with a teacher having pain in his butt, you know, his butt hurts, his butt hurts. All of a sudden, someone turns around and walks up to the teacher, and guess who it is? It's Gibby. As you might expect from watching that scene, the pain in the teacher's butt is Gibby's fault, entirely Gibby's fault. Not too much later, Principal Franklin from iCarly, the original Principal Franklin, walks into the classroom. This implies that Gibby still goes to the same school after Carly left. I think she left with her dad to the military base, and that's when Sam left to do another shitty spin-off show, Sam and Cat. So the teacher is pretty mad at Gibby and is being carried away out of the classroom, and it seems that the source of the pain is the weasel, Gibby's weasel, that bit the teacher in his butt. Principal Franklin comes in, you know, wants to give him detention and all that, but Gibby can't do Saturday detention because he has to go to a weasel convention, and he was gonna dress up as Batman and Robin with the weasel. So in typical Dan Schneider fashion, the weasel escapes, you know, he's nowhere to be found. Gibby is somewhat spoken free of his detention up until the weasel bites Principal Franklin in the wiener, which seems pretty painful. That's where the intro ends for the Gibby pilot. Gibby, as an internet celebrity, seems to relish his fame a lot. People walk up to him, well, people, kids, children, small children walk up to him saying, "Oh, you're Gibby from iCarly." And one of the kids asked Gibby to sign his retainer. I feel like the ink would disappear within seconds, but hey, you know, kids aren't really known for being smart. The whole cafeteria starts bursting into a food fight. Chicken nuggets are being thrown everywhere, and a loose stray chicken nugget flies dramatically through the cafeteria. And guess who saves the day? Gibby. Slow motion shots, dramatic effect, but what ends up happening, Gibby catches the chicken nugget, and he only caught it because he wanted to eat it, saying thanks for the chicken nugget. Do you like Darman videos? Dan Schneider was basically Darman before Darman was Darman. Eventually, this just turns into a whole heartwarming moment of don't be mean, accept everyone around you, be nice to everyone. This is where it gets very Darman-y. The whole cafeteria starts applauding Gibby for the stupid lame speech that he gives. So the kids he protected from the chicken nuggets are pretty much losers. They're the weird kids, they stand out, and Gibby wants to be friends with them, or he kind of claims that he's friends with them. But this cast is a little weird. There's one kid, it's a black little boy, and he's paranoid. The other guy is a suck up, another one is a robot, or he thinks he's a robot. And then there's one that might seem familiar. Not only does she act a lot like Sam Puckett, she looks the part. She basically looks like a 10-year-old Sam Puckett. Gibby was also, back in iCarly, shown to be somewhat of a ladies' man, and that pretty much comes back because he promises the little kids, the weird kids, that he would hang out with them, and the cheerleaders are like, "Gibby, are you gonna come over to my house? I'm gonna do cheerleader routines. We're gonna do upside down cartwheels or some shit." Gibby really tries his best to cancel on them because he promised the kids, the weird kids, to hang out with them. And of course, like everything else in the mid 2010s, early 2010s, Carly Rae Jepsen's Call Me Maybe started playing. This scene changes into a kids fun corner cafe with all these arcade games and shit, and you know, fun times all around. Weird Dan Schneider inventions like the Exerfries, which is a machine that gives you fries when you exercise for it. All weird Dan Schneider shit, like the pear pad being a massive iPad in the shape of a pear. So the kids start having a conversation, they introduce themselves. I forgot all of their names. Gibby starts realizing why they're the weird kids and nobody wants to hang out with them. The little kid who looks like Sam said something mean to the kid who thinks he's a robot, and the robot guy said he would spray her with robot fluid. Here come the weird Dan Schneider references, of course. But that's not the weirdest thing that was said. The Sam looking kid basically says, "You think you're a pervert? Well, you're not." The scene gets a little weird because it's little kids talking to a 16-year-old talking about robot fluids and being a pervert, but what do I know? If that's not weird enough, when they start talking about robot fluids and being a pervert, the song immediately transitions to Flo Rida's Blow My Whistle. You basically just hear, "Can you blow my whistle?" right after that conversation, which is a little icky. You know, it's not the best song to transition into after a conversation with weird references with kids. So around this time marks the halfway point of the episode. A very strange guy whose name is Ozzy gets introduced, who was supposed to rub kids with sun cream and blow up some basketballs. But guess what? He put sunscreen in the basketballs and blew the kids up with air, so the kids started looking pregnant. Another weird Dan Schneider moment, which is shown by, you know, the manager who walks in with these two kids with massive bellies filled with air. And, you know, Gibby, being the womanizer that he is, starts hitting on her. She basically says, "I'm 24 and I have a boyfriend." And, you know, the fact that the way she said she's 24 made me feel a little self-conscious about my age, because it feels like they were like making it seem like 24 is old, but she's only a year younger than me. Maybe I'm old. It's kind of messed up. So what happens after that is that two big Latino men are seen and just wandering about looking very suspicious, which by itself already is suspicious because they're two scary looking big Latino men in a kids cafe. Chris Hansen. So while Gibby was busy hitting on the manager, the kids get bullied by 9th graders. One of them ends up with underwear on his head, so he's basically a butt face. It seems like the 9th graders challenge them to dodge a lean, which is pretty much dodgeball on a trampoline, and Gibby starts coaching them, looking for someone who's playing, but the kids are too scared to play it because they basically got Vietnam flashbacks from playing dodge a lean. So Ozzy joins them. As Ozzy joins them, he gets too excited. Dan Schneider shit, you know, he jumps way too fucking high. He ends up stuck in the ceiling. He's being transported to the hospital, and as he's being transported to the hospital, the manager kind of wants to go with him as Ozzy is her employee. Gibby's just like, all right, you know, I can take over here. And honestly, I would not trust a guy, a 16-year-old guy with a weasel who hangs out with 10-year-olds to leave a kid's corner with him. I mean, a guy who takes his shirt off as well. So the manager's like, all right, you know what? I can give you a job. Do you want a job? He takes the job. All is well until they leave. Ozzy's brought to the hospital, and the two Latino men come back trying to rob a kid's corner, a kid's cafe. They tie him up, ask him where the money is, ask him how they can get the money. They threaten to break his thumbs. As if that's not weird, Gibby's answer is, you know, typical Gibby shit. "I use both of them to bathe my weasel." So this is where it gets very man. The kids walk out, go home. The robot kid forgot his jacket, so they come back for the jacket, and they see Gibby getting bullied by two big Latino men who just want to rob the place. And then some crazy friendship is magic moment happens where they're like, oh yeah, but we're friends and friends are supposed to help friends. So they toughen up, go back in, attack the two Latino robbers with dodgeballs, and the Sam looking girl jumps on him until they give up robbing the place. Gibby gets loose from the ropes, stands up, takes his shirt off. The other boys take their shirt off too, and the girl is like, hey, don't look at me. That scene probably went on very differently in Dan Schneider's head. So the boys run and yell after the robbers and keep yelling, "Gibby, Gibby." And as the robbers leave, Gibby closes the door and they all go for a Gibby skin hug, skin to skin action. That's pretty much how the episode goes. It's pretty strange, very Dan Schneider-y and very Darman. What I really see after watching the pilot is why they would not go through with it, because it's very lame. Gibby is a comic relief character, and giving him his own show kind of means that you're constantly relying on him. You have no clear characters that could carry through the show. You have Gibby, who's just getting up to no good, constant mischief, and just weird situations with his weasel. Sam and Cat was pretty shitty, but the whole premise of that show was that they're babysitters, so it all kind of makes sense, you know, so that they're constantly with children. But Gibby being a 16-year-old, constantly being with 10-year-olds who he calls his friend just to protect them or whatever, it's kind of a weird idea. What was probably a big factor in this show not going on is that it's basically just a very low-hanging fruit Starman video. Like, oh yeah, friends are the best, you need to be nice to everyone, and everyone starts clapping. And it's just like I don't know, I don't like the idea of how they did it with a star cast like Miranda Cosgrove and Jeanette McCurdy, and I forgot his name, whoever played Freddy. They're gone, so it's not like Gibby can bounce off of anyone. Gibby was usually the butt of the joke, and he still remains somewhat of the butt of the joke, but not as much as he used to be. It's like they're constantly forcing Gibby to be something when his character isn't interesting enough to make a main character in a spin-off. It just feels like a quick cash grab. Like Sam and Cat was pretty awful. The Joey show, the Friends spin-off, was pretty awful too, because it just doesn't work like that. Planet Sheen, stuff like that just doesn't work, because the comedic relief character just doesn't work as a main character going through his own adventures. The Patrick Star Show, which surprisingly got a second season, it just doesn't work. They rely too much on weird situations happening and being the one who basically delivers a joke or delivers a slapstick situation, that having them be the constant focus of it just doesn't work. You'll just get tired real quick. And honestly, I'm pretty glad they never greenlit the Gibby show. My advice going forward is just don't ask for spin-offs, especially when they're just think critically of a character when you want them to have a spin-off, because like there's only one spin-off. Well, no, it's not only one, but there's one very good example of a spin-off that actually worked. I personally hate The Big Bang Theory. I cannot watch it. It's annoying as hell. I don't like it. It just feels too forced. But Young Sheldon, I love that show. I watched every single episode, and it's interesting. What they did is they made a character very compelling by showing his struggles growing up, his social, his problems with social interactions, social situations and stuff. And also not in the form of a sitcom. It's more like dramatized and shit. But seeing something like Gibby, it's supposed to be a sitcom derived from a sitcom, that doesn't work. You need a strong cast of characters to make something like that work, because they basically react to each other. But if you have a 16-year-old guy hanging with 10-year-olds, or they're probably 13, canonically, they definitely look 10, it just doesn't work. So, I've personally seen a lot of pilot episodes, and even for a pilot episode, this has to be one of the worst ones I've seen. Could be, my bias towards Gibby just not being a compelling enough character for me to have a whole episode on him. A one-off special on whatever, iCarly or some shit would have been funny, because it's a one-off thing. Gibby, with the idea of him working at some kid's corner, because that's definitely what they were trying to push. If it was greenlit, they would have had him work there and, go through the motions as someone working with children. Pretty much Sam and Cat, but with a guy who takes his shirt off. On the other hand, after having seen a lot of shit about Noah Monk, I'm kind of happy for him that it was never greenlit, because it seems like he wasn't really happy doing these shows, being, constantly regarded as a kid who takes his shirt off, the chubby kid who just walks around topless. I'm glad it didn't go through. I'm not really here to review shit like this. I just like watching it, just like talking about it, giving you guys somewhat of a summary, so you don't really have to watch it if you don't watch it, if you don't want to watch it. The link's in the description. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.